My boss fired me at 8 a.m. for not answering my phone on New Year's Day. At 10 a.m., he realized I was the only person on earth with the keys to the kingdom. By noon, he learned that firing the only IT guy with the 2FA token costs exactly $5,000. I am what you call a single point of failure. In the IT world, this is a very bad thing. It means that if one specific component breaks, a hard drive, a router, or in this case, a human being, the entire system collapses. For the last 5 years, I have been begging the management at Apex Logistics to hire a backup. I have sent emails. I have made PowerPoint presentations. I have practically done interpretive dance in the boardroom to explain why having one system administrator for a company that moves $3 million of freight a day is a catastrophic business strategy. "We hear you, Marcus," Greg would say, leaning back in his Herman Miller chair that cost more than my first car. "But we're running lean right now. We need to be agile, maybe next quarter." Greg was the vice president of operations. Greg was a man who thought the cloud was an actual physical place in the sky where data lived on fluffy white cumulus formations. Greg was the kind of guy who used phrases like paradigm shift and low-hanging fruit unironically. And Greg was the man who decided that my personal time was actually company property. For 5 years I was on call, 24/7, 365. I fixed servers at birthday parties. I rebooted routers during funerals. I troubleshooted the warehouse Wi-Fi while I was on my honeymoon in Cancun, hiding in the hotel bathroom so my wife wouldn't throw my phone into the ocean. I did it because I cared about the work, and because I was terrified of what would happen if I stopped. But this year was different. This year I was burnt out. I was a husk of a human being. The Christmas rush had been brutal. Shipping logistics is a nightmare in December, and I had worked 18 days straight without a single day off. So on December 31st, I made a decision. I sent an email to the entire executive team, including Greg. Subject: unavailability on January 1st. Team, I will be taking the holiday off to recover from the peak season rush. I will not be checking emails or answering calls. The system is stable. Automated scripts are running. I will be back online at 8 a.m. on January 2nd. Happy New Year. I set my out-of-office reply. I turned off my laptop, and for the first time in half a decade, I put my work phone on Do Not Disturb. New Year's Eve was blissful. My wife and I drank champagne. We watched the ball drop. We didn't talk about servers or latency or packet loss. We talked about travel. We talked about buying a new couch. We talked about life. I went to bed at 2 a.m., a happy man. I woke up at 10 a.m. on January 1st to a beautiful, silent morning. Sunlight was streaming through the curtains. My wife was making pancakes. I could smell the bacon. I stretched, feeling the tension leave my shoulders. Then I looked at my personal phone. I had 47 missed calls, 32 text messages, 15 voicemails. They were all from Greg. I felt that familiar spike of adrenaline, that fight or flight cortisol dump that every IT professional knows. I reached for the phone, my thumb hovering over the callback button. And then I stopped. I remembered my email. I will not be checking emails or answering calls. I looked at the notifications. Greg, 9 a.m., pick up. Server is acting slow. Greg, 9:15 a.m., Marcus, this is urgent. Warehouse says scanning is lagging. Greg, 10:30 a.m., where are you? Greg, 12 p.m., this is unacceptable, call me now. Greg, 3 p.m., if you don't pick up, don't bother coming in. I read that last one again. If you don't pick up, don't bother coming in. I sat there on the edge of my bed, listening to the bacon sizzle in the kitchen. I thought about the 18 days straight. I thought about the missed funerals and the ruined honeymoon. I thought about Greg's bonus, which was public record, and which was 3 times my annual salary. I put the phone back on the nightstand. I didn't unlock it. I didn't reply. I walked into the kitchen, kissed my wife, and ate pancakes. I spent the entire day watching football. I took a nap. I read a book. I treated January 1st like what it was, a federal holiday. I went to sleep that night feeling a strange mixture of anxiety and liberation. I knew there would be a fight in the morning. I knew Greg would be purple with rage. But I figured I would get a write-up, maybe a screaming lecture. I was the single point of failure. They couldn't fire me. I was the only one who knew how the machine worked. I was wrong. I woke up this morning, January 2nd, at 6:30 a.m. I showered, got dressed, and prepared for battle. I drove to the office, rehearsing my defense in my head. I gave notice. It was a holiday. The issue was probably minor latency that resolved itself. I pulled into the parking lot at 7:55 a.m. My badge didn't work on the card reader at the front door. That was weird. The system must be down. I knocked. The security guard, a nice guy named Carl who I had chatted with for years, came to the glass. He didn't open the door. He looked sad. He held up a clipboard and shook his head. "I can't let you in, Marcus," he said through the glass. "Carl, it's me. My badge is glitching." "It's not a glitch," Carl said. "Greg called down. You're on the list. Terminated, effective immediately. You're not allowed on the premises." I stood there in the cold, blinking. Terminated. My phone buzzed. It was an email to my personal account. From Greg. Subject: Notice of termination. Marcus, due to your gross insubordination and abandonment of duties during a critical operational window on January 1st, your employment with Apex Logistics is terminated effective 8 a.m. today. Your personal effects will be mailed to you. Do not attempt to access company systems. I stood in the parking lot, reading the email on my phone screen. My breath clouded in the freezing air. He actually did it. He fired the only IT guy because he didn't pick up the phone on a holiday. I felt a wave of nausea, followed immediately by a wave of hysterical laughter. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw a rock through the window. But then my brain shifted gears. The engineer part of my brain woke up. I looked at the time, 8:05 a.m. Every morning at 9 a.m., the main server performs a security handshake. It's a rolling encryption key update. It was a system I installed 2 years ago after we got hit with ransomware. To prevent unauthorized access, the system requires a multi-factor authentication, MFA, token to authorize the daily rekeying. If the token isn't entered by 10 a.m., the system assumes it's under attack. It initiates a lockdown protocol. It severs all external connections. It shuts down the VPN. It locks the database. It essentially turns the entire company's digital infrastructure into a brick until an administrator physically unlocks it with a master code and the 2FA token. The 2FA token that generates a 6-digit code every 30 seconds. The 2FA token that was on an app. On my personal cell phone. I didn't steal anything. I didn't change any passwords. I didn't sabotage the system. I simply left. And because they were too cheap to buy corporate phones or hardware keys, the security of a multi-million-dollar logistics firm was tied to the Google Authenticator app on my Samsung Galaxy, which was currently in my pocket. I walked back to my car. I sat in the driver's seat. I turned on the heater. I decided to wait. 8:30 a.m. I drove to a Starbucks down the street. I ordered a large latte and a croissant. I opened my laptop, my personal laptop, and logged into Reddit. I started browsing r/sysadmin, chuckling at the horror stories, knowing I was about to live one. 9 a.m. The handshake protocol would be initiating right now. The server would be pinging for the code. It would send an automated email to my work address, which I could no longer access, asking for the 6 digits. Nobody would see it. Even if they had access to my inbox, they wouldn't have the code. 9:15 a.m. I imagined the scene in the office. The warehouse crew would be trying to scan packages. The scanners would be timing out. The shipping clerks would be trying to print labels. The printers would be silent. Greg would be in his office, sipping his espresso, thinking he had laid down the law. He had shown everyone who was boss. He had cut the dead weight. 9:30 a.m. My personal phone rang. It was Sarah, the office manager. She was a nice lady. She brought brownies on Fridays. I let it go to voicemail. Voice message: "Hey Marcus, it's Sarah. I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Look, we're having some trouble with the login screen. It's asking for a code. Greg is shouting at everyone. Do you know what this is? Call me back." I didn't call back. 9:45 a.m. The server was now in the warning phase. It would be flashing red on the main console in the server room, but nobody went in the server room except me. It was locked, and I had the only key on my keychain, which was currently in my pocket. They could call a locksmith, sure, but by the time they got in, it would be too late. 9:55 a.m. My phone rang again. It wasn't Sarah. It was an unknown number, probably one of the junior ops guys borrowing a phone because the VoIP lines were likely starting to jitter. Ignored. 10 a.m. Boom. The lockdown protocol engaged. I pictured it perfectly. The VPN tunnels collapsing, the database encrypting itself, the screens in the warehouse going black, the trucks at the loading dock sitting idle because the gate control system was networked. Silent, beautiful, expensive silence. 10:05 a.m. My phone started to vibrate. It wasn't a call, it was a text from Greg. "Greg, system is down. What did you do?" I smiled. He still thought I was doing something. He still thought I had access. He didn't realize that he had done this. I replied, "Me, I have been terminated. I have no access to company systems. Please contact your IT department." "Greg, you are the IT department." "Me, not as of 8 a.m. this morning per your email." "Greg, stop playing games. Fix it now." "Me, I cannot perform work for a company I am not employed by. It's a liability issue. Good luck." I blocked his number. 10:15 a.m. I ordered another croissant. This one was chocolate. 10:30 a.m. My phone rang again. It was the CEO's number, Mr. Sterling, the big boss, the guy who only came in once a month to check the financials. He must have gotten a call from a very angry client, or perhaps he noticed that the company wasn't moving any freight. I respected Mr. Sterling. He was tough, but he wasn't Greg. I answered. "Hello." "Marcus," Mr. Sterling's voice was calm but tight. "I'm at the office. Nothing is working. Greg tells me you sabotaged the server before you left." "Mr. Sterling," I said, putting on my best professional voice, "I did absolutely no such thing. I was terminated via email at 8 a.m. I was denied entry to the building by security. I haven't touched a keyboard. The system is likely in a standard security lockdown because the daily authentication failed." Authentication. Yes, sir. The 2FA protocol. It requires a code generated every morning. It's a security measure against ransomware. And who has the code? I do, sir. It's on my personal device. Why is it on your personal device? Because Greg denied my budget request for RSA hardware tokens 3 years running. He said they were an unnecessary expense, so I used my own phone to secure the network. There was a long silence on the other end. I could hear Greg shouting in the background. I could hear Mr. Sterling exhaling slowly. "Okay," Sterling said. "Okay, Marcus, give me the code." "I can't do that, sir." "Why not?" "Because I am not an employee. Providing security credentials to a third party, even the CEO, when I am not under contract is a violation of cybersecurity best practices. Also, frankly, I don't work for you. I was fired for gross insubordination. If I give you the code, I am working, and I don't work for free. I'll rehire you, Sterling said. Right now, you're unfired, come in. No thank you, I said. The bridge is burned, sir. Greg made that very clear. I don't want to work for Apex anymore. Marcus, we are losing $10,000 a minute, Sterling said. The trucks are stuck. The clients are screaming. Give me the code. I am willing to offer my services as an independent external consultant, I said. I had rehearsed this line in the mirror while brushing my teeth. I can come in, verify the system integrity, input the credentials, and transition the security protocols to a new administrator. But I have a rate. Fine, Sterling snapped. What's the rate? Double time, triple time? My consulting rate is $500 per hour, I said. Fine, come in. With a minimum retainer of 10 hours, I added, paid in advance, via wire transfer, before I step foot on the property. $5,000, Sterling asked, for a 6-digit code. No, sir, I corrected him. For 5 years of knowing which code to use, and for the emergency service of restoring your multi-million-dollar operation on a holiday weekend after being wrongfully terminated. I heard a slam in the background, probably Greg hitting a desk. Send me the wiring instructions, Sterling said, and get here now. 11 a.m. I sat in my car in the Starbucks parking lot, refreshing my banking app. 11:15 a.m. Deposit received, $5,000 Apex Logistics. I started the car. 11:30 a.m. I pulled back into the Apex lot. It was chaos. There were drivers standing around smoking cigarettes. There were warehouse guys sitting on the loading docks looking bored. I walked to the front door. Carl. The security guard looked at me. He looked confused. I thought you were banned. I'm a consultant now, Carl, I said, flashing a smile. VIP. He buzzed me in. I walked through the office. It was a scene from a disaster movie. Phones were ringing off the hook and nobody was answering them. People were packing. I walked toward the server room. Greg was standing outside the door, his face a shade of crimson that looked medically dangerous. Mr. Sterling was standing next to him, looking icy. You, Greg spat, stepping toward me. You held us hostage. This is extortion. I'm going to call the cops. Greg, Mr. Sterling said, one word, but it had the weight of an anvil. Shut up. Greg, shut up. Marcus, Sterling said, fix it. I need the server room key, I said. I turned mine into Carl. We don't have a spare, Greg mumbled. You never gave us one. I gave you 3, I said. You lost them, or you put them in your desk and forgot. Sterling looked at Greg. Open the door. I can't, Greg yelled. It's locked. Break it down, Sterling ordered. One of the warehouse guys came up with a crowbar. With a loud crack and the splintering of wood, the server room was breached. I walked in. It was cool and loud, the fans whirring at maximum speed. I walked to the console. The screen was red. System locked. Enter CREDNTIALS. I pulled out my phone. I opened the Authenticator app. I typed in the password. Then I waited for the timer to reset. 948, 221. I hit enter. The screen turned green. Access granted. RESTORINGSERVICES. Behind me in the office, I heard a collective cheer go up. The printers started whirring. The warehouse scanners beeped. Everything was online now. It took exactly 45 seconds. I turned around. Greg looked like he was going to vomit. Sterling looked impressed. Done, I said. Now, as part of my consulting package, I need to transfer the 2FA to a company device so this doesn't happen again. Greg, give me your phone. My phone, Greg recoiled. Unless you want to buy a hardware token right now. Greg handed over his phone. I installed the app. I scanned the QR code on the screen. I transferred the keys to the kingdom to the man who barely knew how to use Zoom. "There," I said, "it's your problem now. The code changes every 30 seconds. Don't lose it. Don't delete the app. And for the love of God, don't fire yourself at 8 a.m. I picked up my bag. "Marcus," Sterling said as I walked out, "that was instructive." "I hope so," I said. "Greg won't be needing that phone for much longer," Sterling added, loud enough for the entire office to hear. "We're going to be making some changes in operations, if you ever want to come back." "I'm good," I said. "I'm enjoying the freelance life." I walked out of the building. It was noon. The sun was high and bright. The air was crisp. I had just made $5,000 in 2 hours. I had humiliated the man who made my life hell, and I had the rest of the day off. I got back in my car and called my wife. "Hey," I said, "how do you feel about upgrading that couch to the leather sectional?" "Did you get the job back?" she asked. "No," I said, smiling as I pulled onto the highway. "I got something better. I got paid." I heard later that Greg was let go the following week. Apparently, losing 3 hours of productivity and paying a $5,000 ransom because you didn't understand how too far worked was considered gross incompetence. Apex hired a managed service provider to replace me. They charge $15,000 a month, and they don't answer the phone on holidays either. I'm currently consulting for a different firm. My contract explicitly states no on-call availability on federal holidays. And I charge $200 an hour. Life is good. If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.